I'm Sammy.
And I'm Nicole.
And we are Spooky Sleuths.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Welcome back to yet another episode of Spooky Sleuths.
We're so happy you came back. And boy, do we have something special for y'all today.
This kind of thing is something that I would imagine somebody in our area would do.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
We live in a rural area.
Maybe not the axe itself, but the location, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this week we're going to talk about William Robert Pickton.
And what would you know? Sammy picked another Canadian case. I think there's a theme here.
Our next one will be U.S. based. At least I think so. William Robert Pickton was also known as the pig farmer killer or the butcher. And trigger warning, as per the usual, there's going to be talks of murder, SA,
cannibalism.
Kind of cannibalism, yeah. And some mutilation too.
Definitely torture.
Yeah. So, not your thing. We'll catch you in the next one. All right, let's start at the beginning. William was born in 1949 in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia, to a family of pig farmers. Another reason I have to stop doing Canada cases is I don't speak French. So
that's very clear.
Anyway, William's family had been raising pigs for 3 generations now. He had 2 siblings named David Francis Parker and Lind Louise Wright. The 3 siblings inherited their family's pig farm, but they would sell parts of the farm in 94 and 95 for a total of $5.16 million US dollars. That's equivalent to over $10 million US dollars today. So after they sold various parts of it, they were left with about 6.5 acres.
Sidebar, I raised 2 pigs through 4-H.
Of course you did.
Through 4-H and FFA. My first pig I raised for our county fair because that's the kind of person I am. And his name was Wilbur.
Ask her about her garden.
It's been a rough couple summers. I was pregnant and then I had a newborn. And I apparently can't do more than one thing at a time. But anyway, so I had 2 pigs. First one named Wilbur. He was wonderful. And my second pig was for my ham and bacon sale. And I named him Lucifer. And he was
not so nice,
He was not. We were not friends. And I loved dressing his ham up and his bacon up. And he made a mean sausage.
I don't know how to feel about that. Anyway.
Neither do the vegans that are canceling us right now.
Oh, gosh. You try to be.
Listen, my health wants it so bad, but I just really, really enjoy a good steak. Okay,
well,
back to the Picktons.
The Picktons were
I don't know what this was.
The Picktons were known for hosting wild parties on their farm. They converted a building near their farm for parties, calling it the Piggy Palace.
That sounds like something off of the Muppets.
It does. Maybe that's where Miss Piggy lives. In addition,
that's gross, considering everything else we're about to talk about.
Miss Piggy doesn't live there. In addition to their party barn, the siblings founded a non-profit charity organization called Piggy Palace Good Times Society. Their mission was to organize, coordinate, manage, and operate special events, functions, dances, shows, and exhibitions on behalf of service organizations, sports organizations, and other worthy groups.
This doesn't sound so bad.
They started a non-profit to throw parties.
It's kind of bad, I guess.
I wouldn't say it's bad, but I don't think it's good. The parties held by the siblings under the organization would be attended by up to 1,700 people.
1, this building has to be huge. And 2, I don't even know 1,700 people.
I don't want to be anywhere where there's 1,700 people. Unless it's like an outdoor concert that I can get behind.
Or Disney World.
I've never been to Disney World, so... Some of these people that attended the parties were bikers and sex trade workers. Needless to say, the neighbors were not fans.
I wonder if this part of Canada is in, like, if Canada has a Bible Belt.
I don't know. That's interesting. We have a Bible Belt.
Yes. That we live in the middle of.
Yes. Well, the neighbors, they would complain of rowdiness, drug use, drunkenness, and noise. The nonprofit closed in 2000 after a New Year's Eve party in 98. The siblings were sued for violating zoning laws. As a result, they were banned from holding any parties moving forward. They also could not provide any of the mandatory financial statements that they needed to provide as a nonprofit.
Why wouldn't you look into that before you open this nonprofit?
You'd think that you would have your ducks in a row, but
Or your
pigs
in a row.
William and David both were also proprietors of P&B Salvage, a salvage yard in Vancouver.
I feel like he's really set up for, like, I can't think of what I'm trying to say here, but I feel like he is set up for, like, the perfect place to take people and then to get rid of them.
Well, that's an interesting concept. Well, between 1983 and 2001, 26 women went missing that William was eventually credited for, while many more were missing and their whereabouts are unknown. 1997 was the first. The 48-year-old woman... I'm just inventing words now.
It's fine.
The 48-year-old attempted to murder a prostitute named Wendy Lynn Estetler. Did I say it wrong again?
No, I was thinking about me the other night. I don't remember what...
Can't go there. Peepers.
The peepers.
Okay.
The 48-year-old.
The 48-year-old attempted to murder a prostitute named Wendy Lynn Estetter. He hired Wendy for her services and ended up handcuffing and stabbing her. He was arrested and charged for this crime, but the police dropped the charges.
How? Are you going to tell me how?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not going to make sense, but I'm going to tell you what they did.
Okay.
According to the police, Wendy would not be a good witness. They thought that her drug addiction made her too unstable, and she was an unreliable witness. The police...
What years are we talking? 90s? Of course. I mean, even today, we don't believe anything.
Yeah, this was 97.
Yeah. Even today, we don't believe anything that are sex workers.
Or drug addicts.
Yeah.
The police and Wendy both had a good case, as William and Wendy had stab wounds and were treated at the same hospital for these wounds.
Then you don't need her testimony.
Not only that.
Oh, no.
William had the key to the handcuffs that were on Wendy in his pocket.
Then, yeah, you didn't need her testimony. So what would it matter if you didn't think it was credible?
It's really sad that they let him slip through. We really might not be talking about him today if he had been stopped then.
I mean, he started in 83, but he wouldn't have the body count that he does now.
Right.
That's crazy.
One of William's favorite places to get prostitutes was called Downtown East Side. This area was home to high poverty rates, homelessness, open drug use, and prostitution.
His perfect stomping ground for what he's looking for.
Absolutely. By the late 1990s, 80% of the girls and women who were working in the sex trade, yes, girls, meaning not women, not adults yet, and women, who were working in the sex trade came from outside of Vancouver to the downtown east side to work. William began going to downtown east side to dispose of waste animal parts at a rendering plant. After he'd drop his waste off, he would cruise an area called the Low Track for prostitutes, where he'd offer money and drugs before taking them back to his farm.
They never made it to get the money and drugs, did they?
They made it back to the farm, but he would just have sex with them and then murder them. Women started to go missing in the Low Track in the 1980s, and because they were sex trade workers and or addicted to drugs, the police didn't pay attention.
And that's still how it's treated today.
Absolutely. They used their profession to say they couldn't know if these women were disappearing by choice or being kidnapped.
Then why didn't you find out? You know what I mean? Why wouldn't
let's
you?
investigate it.
Let's dig a little deeper. You can't just assume it's by choice, and you can't assume they've been kidnapped. Figure it out.
At the beginning, there was no discernible pattern, and some women weren't reported missing until they were missing for months or years.
Years?
Years. Because of their profession and William's disposal of the bodies, it isn't clear how many victims he had, and we'll get into how he disposed of the bodies. He claims that he murdered more women than he was charged with, but let's talk about just a few of his known victims. The first victim is who they believe to be his first victim, was in June of 1983, and her name was Rebecca Guno. She was 23 years old and wasn't reported missing.
Next victim.
His next victim was a 43-year-old named Sherry Rail. She went missing in January of 1984, but was not reported missing for 3 years.
3 years?
I understand the police not being able to find any evidence on that one. If it's been 3 years, there's no way for them to get evidence. But they can look at the other cases, pursue leads, and maybe find some evidence that that's where she went.
Like, I was more understanding with the not being reported for 3 days because of the transient activities.
Right.
I can get 3 days. 3 years, though, that's a long time for nobody to care enough to find out where someone is. Yeah.
His third victim was 33-year-old Elaine Auerbach. She went missing in March of 86 after telling her friends she was moving to Seattle, Washington. Elaine was reported missing in April of that year.
That one I also can almost excuse away because
it's back in the 80s. They didn't have cell phones, did they?
It's like, hey, I'm heading out, heading out west.
Yeah, you don't know where, it's unusual to hear from people. To not hear from people, but Teresa Ann Williams was his next victim. The 23-year-old went missing in July of 1988, but was not reported missing until March of the next year. Ingrid Sowett, a mental health patient, went missing in August of 89 and was reported missing in October of 1990. As you can see, a lot of women went missing during these years. The Vancouver police did not even take interest in these women until 1999.
And these are just the ones that are being reported now.
Yeah, and this is just a small portion. I could go on and keep listing people, but I just wanted to kind of give an idea of these women not being reported for long periods of times.
Yeah, and majority of them a year or more. Yeah. And it also shows that as long as they were female and sex trade workers, they were in his
demographic.
It didn't seem like age really meant much of anything.
Well, the Vancouver police claim that they acted responsibly regarding the information they received about William, but they did acknowledge that they could have done more to stop the murders sooner. I understand that their job entails sexual activity, but that doesn't mean that anytime sexual activity occurs that it's consensual. And a lot of sex trade workers can't even get those types of charges, those SA charges, to stick because of their profession.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's profiling.
Because this case is still ongoing, there isn't a clear idea of what William did to these women when he brought them home. So I want to share all of the theories of what people, including William himself, claimed to have happened to his victims. First, William claims that he would handcuff, SA, and murder the women. He says that he would strangle the women, bleed them out, gut them, and run them through a wood chipper.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. A wood chipper?
I don't know the purpose of that, because unless it wouldn't destroy the bones, would it? The wood chipper? I don't know.
Not like you wouldn't think in like a splintering fashion, but it would still...
It would break them up, but... Well, after this, he claims that he fed the women's remains to his pigs.
I was going to say, what was the point in that? Because a pig would just consume an entire body.
Yep. One other theory of this case is that after he murdered the women, He would grind them up and mix the ground up human with minced pork from the farm. He would package them up and then give them to his friends and family.
Oh my gosh.
Could you imagine the neighbor walking over? Hey, Nicole, I have some meat from my pig. I have too much. Here you go.
I would absolutely fry that up.
Not now, you won't.
Nope. Don't bring me nothing.
I am Nicole's neighbor. But yeah, he would serve. That's why we said kind of cannibalism, because he would serve his victims up. A documentary called The Pig Farm said that William needed to build his rage when he was with women. He would become violent and accuse them of doing something like stealing from him. Then he would restrain them, strangle them, or shoot them, and butcher their bodies.
So for his consciousness, he had to have a reason to do these things to them. So he'd create one.
Yeah, he would lie, make up this scenario in his head.
So then he could feel like he was justified in doing what he was planning to do.
William was eventually arrested in February of 2002. So not that long ago. I was 7. But the police, they had a warrant to search William's home for firearms violation. While searching, the police found the personal belongings of a missing woman. After this, the court issued an additional warrant to search for more missing women's belongings. Searching the farm with this warrant, police found human remains such as skulls that were cut in half and stuffed with human hands and feet. They also found DNA from 33 women, bloody clothing that belonged to a victim, and a jawbone with teeth that belonged to one victim.
How can I say this without sounding like a complete psychopath? I'm not suggesting that anybody do this, but you live on a pig farm. Why are you
keeping trophies?
Yeah, why are you keeping any evidence? Because if he just would have had, like he had done some, because it's documented, like fed them to the pigs, you wouldn't have been caught.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad he was caught. Don't get me wrong. But
absolutely.
He had every way to not.
Yeah. He could have even taken them to the place he dropped his meat off at to get rid of them if he wasn't going to feed them to the pigs. But no, I understand what you're saying. Like I'm really he just wanted the trophy.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be offensive in any way, shape, or form, but you have every resource to never get caught because from your victim's demographics to living on a pig farm with pigs that will consume an entire human body. You are set up for success. Like you shouldn't have gotten caught. I'm so glad he did again, but it's just these trophies that they like to keep. It always comes
back to bite them.
Yes, every single time.
Well, this next part is a little bit interesting. As far as the weapons warrant is concerned, the police found a .22 revolver.
Okay.
With a dildo attached to its barrel.
A what?
A dildo.
Can we say dildo?
I think we can say dildo.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
We don't really know if we can talk about phallic shaped things on this show. Anyway, they also found 357 Magnum rounds, 2 pairs of furry handcuffs, night vision goggles, and photos.
I mean, at least the handcuffs were furry, I guess.
They were more comfortable. I don't know.
Let's
That's
ask
what
the women.
What I'm hearing. These photos, the photos were of a garbage can that contained the remains of a victim. You're probably wondering about the dildo on the weapon.
Well, yeah.
Well, Willie Boy said that the dildo was meant to function as a makeshift suppressor.
Like the silencer they put on guns?
I guess. I don't know guns.
Okay.
But the dildo had both his DNA on it.
Of course it did.
And the DNA of a victim.
Of course it did.
And the weapon also had an empty cartridge indicating that it had been fired. William's trial began in January of 2006. During the trial, the prosecution had some nifty little video testimony from an undercover police officer posing as an inmate. According to the officer, William stated that he wanted to kill one more person So his victim count would be an even 50. This is indicating that William is confessing to killing 49 women. Many of his victims were sex trade workers, thus many missing women went unnoticed. It is possible that he did have that many victims.
And how many was he charged for?
He was charged with 27 initially.
Okay.
So he pled not guilty at his trial when he was facing 27 counts of first-degree murder. But authorities didn't have enough evidence for one of the murders, so he ended up only facing 26.
Okay.
There really isn't a lot of information about the proceedings because Canada has a publication ban on open investigations. And I'll get to why it's open in just a second. We do know that 26 charges were split into 2 proceedings. The first one contained charges for 6 of his victims: Marnie Lee Frey, Georgina Faith Papping, Brenda Ann Wolfe, Andrea Josbury, Serena Abostway, and Mona Lee Wilson. These cases had evidence that is what the prosecution called materially different evidence than that of the other 20.
I wished we knew what that meant.
Yeah, me too. I wish we knew what that dividing, what evidence was what. They also wanted to ease the burden on the jury. 26 counts for a jury to decide on is a lot. On December 6, 2007, William was found guilty in all 6 counts. However, they were reduced to second-degree murder.
Why?
But he received a full life sentence with the possibility of parole in 25 years. Now, this is the 3rd case that we've talked about with the sentence in Canada. So I want to point out that this is the highest possible punishment in Canada. So he would have been serving that time even if it was for first-degree murder or the second-degree murder.
It was still the max sentence.
Yep.
Okay.
In August of 2010, the remaining 20 charges were stayed.
What does that mean?
The court ruled that the proceedings were to stop either temporarily or indefinitely. And there was
which
some
way?
No, there were some appeals going back and forth about evidence, and the court just stayed the case. So that means it's still ongoing, which is why I couldn't get all the information about his case, which would have given us so much more info, like the backstories of the victims, what he did, and it would have given us a lot more content. So maybe if that case closes,
we can revisit.
Redo the episode or do a part 2 to this episode, because I'm really interested to hear what evidence they have.
I mean, it's been 12 years since it was stayed. No, it's 2024. It's not 2022.
Yeah,
it's been 14 years.
Well, he will likely spend the rest of his life in prison.
How old is he?
71 years old.
Okay, so
hopefully he'll never walk free. And that may mean that they don't go forward with the case if he's already 71, serving a sentence.
I hate that for lack of justice for the other victims.
I do think it would provide some closure.
Yeah.
So
I also understand not pursuing either from a judicial business standpoint. I'm not saying that's why they should, but
oh yeah, I believe he should still be charged and tried, and those victims and their families deserve more. They deserve some closure. So what are your thoughts about the pig farmer killer?
I think that he had an idea, took it and ran with it, and while he could have been continuing to murder people today, he decided trophies were more important. Like, he had all of the makings to never be caught.
Yeah.
And
he even had a lot of money.
Yeah, they had monies.
I wish I could have found more about his backstory to see if there was like something that happened with his mom or something, because you know a lot of
always blame the mother.
I know, but
you can't blame the mom.
A lot of male serial killers who act this way towards women, especially towards sex workers and prostitutes, have some kind of history with women in general.
Say it. You think he's got mommy issues?
He might. I don't know.
Can't blame the mom.
Just because you're a mom. But anyways, guys, that is the case of the pig farmer killer, William Robert Pickton. Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you're watching on YouTube, Make sure to check us out on Instagram, TikTok, and if you're listening, come over and check us out on YouTube so you can see our awesome pod lab and hang out with us over here.
And we're going to throw some pictures throughout that you'll be able to see. And
yeah. You can find all of our socials at Spooky Sleuths Pod.
And on